For 3 months, billionaire Thomas Crawford secretly followed his wife Emma through Manhattan streets, hiring private investigators to document her every move. Convinced she was having an affair, until he watched her kneel in a rainy alley beside a homeless teenager and realized the betrayal he'd been tracking was actually something that would either destroy their marriage or save it. Pure, reckless compassion that exposed everything he'd become. The private investigator's report sat on my mahogany desk like an accusation. Subject: Emma Crawford. Surveillance period: 90 days. Summary: subject displays consistent pattern of deceptive behavior. Leaves residence 3x weekly claiming errands. Actual activities include clandestine meetings with unidentified male, ages 15 to 17. Subject provides male with cash, food, clothing. Meetings occur in locations subject specifically avoids discussing with spouse. I'd hired Sterling Investigations 8 weeks ago after Emma started acting strange. Secretive, distant, coming home late with flimsy excuses, hiding her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't let me see. We've been married 5 years, together for 7. I was 42, she was 36. No kids. We've been focused on building my tech company, which had just gone public for $2.3 billion. Everything should have been perfect. Instead, my wife was sneaking around Manhattan, meeting with a teenage boy, and lying about it. Mr. Crawford, the investigator said, sliding more photos across my desk. I have to ask, do you want me to dig deeper? Find out who the kid is? Document more interactions? I looked at the photos. Emma outside a coffee shop, handing something to a lanky teenager with dark hair. Emma in Central Park, sitting on a bench beside the same kid, both of them laughing. Emma coming out of store, carrying bags that she'd apparently given to him, because the next photo showed him wearing new clothes. How much has she given him? Conservative estimate? 10 to 15,000 over 3 months. Cash, clothes, food, a phone. Yes, she bought him a phone. Plus what looks like regular meals, medical care. I documented her taking him to a clinic in the Bronx and possibly housing assistance, though I can't confirm that. $15,000. My wife had been secretly spending $15,000 on a random teenage boy. Is he her son? The question came out strangled. From before we met. Unlikely. Wrong age timeline. And she only started interacting with him 3 months ago. I've got the first contact on camera. Looks like she literally just saw him on the street and started helping. So she's just, what? Playing savior to some random homeless kid. Appears that way. Though I have to say, Mr. Crawford, the investigator paused. In 20 years of doing this work, I've seen a lot of affairs, a lot of deception, a lot of lies. This isn't that. Your wife isn't cheating. She's just helping someone. Extensively. And hiding it from you. Why would she hide it? That's what you need to ask her. I didn't ask her. I should have. Should have confronted her that night. Shown her the photos. Demanded an explanation. Instead, I did something worse. I kept watching. If the investigator was right, if Emma wasn't cheating but just helping some random kid, then why was she lying? Why the secrecy? Why spend $15,000 behind my back on someone she'd never mentioned? It didn't make sense. Unless she was ashamed of me, of us, of the wealth we'd accumulated. Emma came from nothing. Foster care, aged out at 18, worked her way through community college while living in her car. She'd been a barista at the coffee shop where I held my morning meetings. We'd started talking, then dating. Then I'd fallen completely in love with a woman who'd survived everything and still believed in kindness. But as my company grew, as we got wealthier, Emma had become quieter, less comfortable with the penthouse, the cars, the lifestyle. She'd started volunteering at homeless shelters, soup kitchens, places I never went because I was too busy running my empire. Do you ever feel guilty? She'd asked once, standing in our kitchen that cost more than most people's houses. About what? Having so much when others have nothing. I earned this. We earned this. There's no guilt in success. She'd gone quiet after that. And maybe that's when it started. Her secret life of helping someone I'd never met. Spending money she never asked permission for. Lying because she knew I wouldn't understand. So I hired more investigators. Not to catch her cheating. To understand what she was doing. Why? who this kid was and what he meant to her. And what I discovered was worse than infidelity. It was a mirror showing me exactly who I'd become. His name was Daniel Martinez, 16 years old, homeless for 8 months after aging out of foster care when his grandmother, his only family, died. He wasn't dangerous, wasn't on drugs, wasn't a con artist. He was just a kid who'd gotten dealt the worst hand and was trying to survive. And my wife, my beautiful, compassionate, secretly generous wife, had decided to save him. The investigators' reports became my obsession. I read them every evening, piecing together Emma's double life. Monday, 6 p.m., subject met male at public library. Spent 2 hours helping with homework. Bought dinner afterward. Cost $47. Wednesday, 7 p.m., subject took mail to doctor's appointment. Paid cash for consultation and prescriptions. Cost $320. Medical issue appears to be untreated bronchitis. Friday, 5 p.m., subject purchased winter coat, boots, thermal clothing for male. Cost $890. Male appeared emotional. Hugged subject. Subject also appeared emotional. She was mothering him. This random kid she'd found on the streets. She was giving him everything she couldn't give the children we'd never had because I was always too busy, always focused on the next deal, the next acquisition, the next billion. Why don't we have kids? Emma had asked 2 years ago. Timing isn't right. The company always needs something. What about what I need? Soon. I promise. Just not yet. That conversation had been the beginning of the distance between us. She'd stopped asking about children. I'd stopped thinking about anything beyond quarterly earnings. And now she was secretly raising someone else's child because I'd given her no other option. I decided to see it for myself. On a Thursday evening, I followed her. Not with investigators. Personally, I wanted to watch, to understand, to see what she was doing that was worth lying about. She left our penthouse at 6 p.m., wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Nothing like the designer clothes she wore to my company events. She took the subway. Emma always took the subway, said it kept her grounded, to a rough neighborhood in the Bronx. She walked 3 blocks to a small community center, went inside. I followed at a distance, watching through windows. Inside, Emma moved through a crowd of homeless youth like she belonged there, laughing with them, hugging a few, helping serve dinner. And in the middle of it all was Daniel, the kid from the photos, looking healthier now than he had 3 months ago. Better clothes, better color in his face, more life in his eyes. Because of Emma, because my wife had been saving him while I'd been suspecting her. I watched her sit with Daniel, helping him with what looked like scholarship applications. Watch her explain something patient and gentle. Watch him look at her with a hope I hadn't seen in anyone's eyes in years. The hope of someone who'd been drowning and finally found solid ground. And I realized this was who Emma was, who she'd always been. The woman who'd survived homelessness herself and couldn't walk past someone suffering without stopping. And I'd been so suspicious, so paranoid, so focused on potential betrayal that I'd hired investigators to track acts of kindness. I was the villain in this story, not her. I left before she saw me, went home to our empty penthouse, and did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at myself honestly, and I hated what I saw. Thomas hired investigators to track his wife, convinced she was cheating, but she was helping a homeless teenager. Was his suspicion justified given her secrecy? Or was he wrong from the start? What would you think if your spouse was spending thousands secretly on someone they'd never mentioned? Drop your honest take below. The breaking point came 3 days later. Emma came home at 11 p.m., soaking wet from rain, exhausted. Sorry I'm late. Book club ran long. Book club. Another lie. The investigators' report showed she'd been at the ER with Daniel, who'd been jumped by older kids trying to rob him. Nothing serious. Bruised ribs, split lip, but she'd stayed for 6 hours making sure he was okay. How was it? I asked, testing her. What? Book club. What did you read? She hesitated just a second too long. Oh, we discussed Educated. Tara Westover's memoir. Really powerful. I'd read the investigator's report 2 hours ago. Knew exactly where she'd been. Knew she was lying to my face. And instead of confronting her, I said, sounds interesting. Why was I letting this continue? Why was I complicit in her lies? Because confronting her meant admitting I'd hired investigators. Meant admitting I'd been spying on her for 3 months. Meant revealing that I'd suspected her of something shameful when she'd actually been doing something noble. I was trapped by my own paranoia. That weekend, Emma said she was going shopping with her sister. The investigator's report told me otherwise. She was taking Daniel to look at apartments, using her own money to put down a deposit on a studio in a safer neighborhood, getting him off the streets permanently. I followed again. Couldn't help myself. I watched them tour a small studio in Washington Heights. Watched Daniel's face light up when a landlord said the place was as if he could handle first month, last month, and security. Watched Emma pull out her checkbook without hesitation. I can't accept this, Daniel said, his voice carrying through the apartment's thin walls. Emma, this is too much. You've already done so much. You need a home. Everyone deserves a home. But your husband, doesn't he wonder where all this money is going? Won't he be angry? He doesn't notice. She said it without bitterness, just sadness. Thomas doesn't notice much beyond his company anymore. What about you? Don't you matter? I used to think so. Now I'm not sure he'd notice if I disappeared. The words hit me like a punch. My wife thought I wouldn't notice if she disappeared. My wife believed she was invisible to me. And she wasn't wrong. When was the last time I'd asked about her day and actually listened? When had I last taken her to dinner, held her hand, told her I loved her? When had I last seen her, really seen her, as more than a beautiful fixture in my successful life? I've been so busy building wealth that I'd forgotten to build marriage. You matter, Daniel said fiercely. You saved my life. Literally. I was planning to, he stopped. Before you found me. I didn't think I'd make it through winter. I was ready to give up. But you showed up. Every week. Brought food. Brought hope. You made me think maybe I was worth saving. You were always worth saving. But you treated me like I was. That's different. Your husband. He's lucky. I hope he knows that. He doesn't, Emma said softly. But that's okay. I'm not doing this for recognition. I'm doing it because it's right. I left before they saw me, drove back to our penthouse, and spent the rest of the day wondering how I'd become the villain in my own wife's life. Monday morning, I made a decision. I called Emma's sister. I actually called her, something I never did. Thomas? Is Emma okay? She's fine. I need to ask you something. Has Emma been spending time with you on weekends? Silence. Then, why are you asking? Because she tells me she's with you. Is she? More silence. Thomas, if Emma's lying about where she is, maybe you should ask her why instead of calling me. I'm asking you. No, she hasn't been with me in months. But before you get angry, Jessica's voice hardened. Maybe ask yourself why your wife feels like she has to lie. Ask yourself what you become that makes honesty impossible. She hung up. Everyone could see it, but me. The investigators. Jessica. Probably everyone in Emma's life. I'd become someone my wife had to lie to. Someone she couldn't trust with her compassion because I'd judge it, question it, make her justify kindness like it was a character flaw. That evening, I decided to do something I'd never done. I left work early. I went home to our penthouse, made dinner, ordered from a restaurant, and plated it to look homemade, but still set the table, lit candles. When Emma walked in at 7 p.m., she stopped in shock. Thomas? What's going on? I wanted to have dinner with my wife. Is that so surprising? You're never home before 9. I know. I want to change that. I pulled out her chair. Seat. Tell me about your day. She sat warily, like this was a trap. My day was fine. Normal. What did you do? Errands. Some volunteering. Where do you volunteer? Her eyes widened slightly. A community center. In the Bronx. I've mentioned it. She hadn't. Or if she had, I hadn't been listening. What do you do there? Help serve meals. Talk to people. Just be present for people who don't have anyone. That's beautiful. I should come with you sometime. She laughed, bitter, disbelieving. You? Volunteer? Thomas, you barely have time for dinner. You're going to spend your evenings at a homeless shelter? Maybe I should. Why? So you can write it off as charity? Get a tax deduction? Add philanthropist to your LinkedIn? The accusation stung because it was fair. Every charitable donation I'd made had been calculated for maximum tax benefit and PR value. I never actually helped anyone. Just written checks that look good in press releases. I want to understand, I said. I want to understand what matters to you, what you care about. Because I've realized, my voice cracked. I've realized I don't know you anymore. Or maybe I never did. Maybe I just fell in love with a beautiful barista and never bothered to discover the woman she was underneath. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Why now? What changed? I couldn't tell her about the investigators. Not yet. I realized I was losing you, that you were slipping away, and I was too busy to notice. And I don't want to lose you. Thomas, I've been slipping away for 2 years. You're just noticing now. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She stood abruptly. I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend that one dinner fixes 2 years of neglect. That you suddenly caring erases the loneliness. The nights you didn't come home. The promises you broke. The life we were supposed to build together that became just your life while She stopped composing herself. I have to go. Where? Out. I need space. Emma, please. No. You don't get to suddenly decide you care and expect me to just fall back in love with the husband who disappeared 2 years ago. She left, and I sat in our dining room surrounded by cold takeout and guttering candles, finally understanding what I'd done. I'd become so focused on building my empire that I'd forgotten to tend my marriage. And now it was crumbling while I counted my billions and wondered why money couldn't fix this. I followed her again that night, not with investigators. Personally, she went to the Bronx, to the community center. I parked across the street and watched through windows. Daniel was there, showing Emma something on his phone, acceptance letters, it looked like, from multiple colleges, full scholarships. His face was pure joy, and Emma was crying, hugging him, celebrating this kid's success like he was her own son. I got out of the car, walked across the street, entered the community center. Emma saw me immediately. Her face went white. Thomas? What are you doing here? I know, I said simply. About Daniel. About the money. About everything. She looked like I'd slapped her. Daniel stepped protectively in front of her. This skinny kid who'd been homeless 8 months ago, now defending my wife from me. How long have you known? Emma asked quietly. 3 months. I hired investigators. The room went silent. Emma's expression shifted from shock to betrayal to fury. You hired investigators. To follow me. She laughed high and broken. You thought I was cheating. You thought I was so suspicious that you paid strangers to track my every move instead of just asking me what I was doing. You thought I was lying, betraying you. And you were right. I was lying. But not about the reasons you assumed. She grabbed her coat. Daniel, I'm sorry. I need to go. Emma, he looked between us. Is everything? It's fine. Mr. Crawford and I need to have a conversation. Congratulations on NYU, sweetheart. You earned it. She walked out. I followed, leaving Daniel standing there looking confused and worried. We ended up in a 24-hour diner 3 blocks away. Neutral territory, public enough that we couldn't completely fall apart. Talk, Emma said. Explain how hiring investigators to spy on your wife seemed like a reasonable choice. You were secretive, distant, lying about where you were. What was I supposed to think? You were supposed to trust me, ask me, communicate like actual partners instead of assuming the worst. You were spending thousands of dollars behind my back. It's my money too. Her voice rose, drawing stares. Thomas, we've been married 5 years. Every dollar you've made, I've supported. Every late night, every missed dinner, every broken promise, I was there. Understanding, patient, waiting for you to remember I existed. That money is as much mine as yours. And if I want to spend it helping someone who actually needs it, that's my choice. You should have told me. Why? So you could talk me out of it? So you could say it was a waste? That Daniel wasn't a worthy investment. She leaned forward. I've watched you spend more on a single business dinner than I've spent on Daniel in 3 months. I watched you buy cars you never drive, an art you never look at, and a penthouse so big we could house 10 people, but don't because you like your space. So don't you dare tell me I should have asked permission to help a kid who was dying on the streets. I'm not saying he didn't deserve help. Then what are you saying? I'm saying you lied. You hid this from me. You made me think you were. I stopped. Having an affair? She said it flat, emotionless. That's what you thought. That I was cheating. Because you couldn't imagine I'd have any other reason to be secretive. Couldn't fathom that I might be ashamed of you, of us, of what we've become. Ashamed? Yes, Thomas. Ashamed. You know what Daniel asked me? He asked if my husband would be angry that I was helping him. And I lied and said you were supportive. But the truth? The truth is I knew you wouldn't understand. You've become so detached from normal human struggle that helping someone felt like something I had to hide. Like compassion was a dirty secret. The words were devastating because they were true. When did I become someone you couldn't trust? I asked. When did you become someone who valued money over people? When did success become the only thing that mattered? When did you stop being the man who used to volunteer at soup kitchens with me, who cried watching documentaries about poverty, who promised we'd always stay grounded? She wiped her eyes. You changed. Slowly. So slowly, I didn't notice until one day I looked at you and didn't recognize the person you'd become. I built us a life. You built yourself an empire. I just live in it. She stood. I'm staying with Jessica tonight. I need space. Time to think about whether this marriage is something I want to keep fighting for or something I need to walk away from. Emma, please. 3 months, Thomas. You suspected me of betrayal for 3 months and never once asked me what was wrong. Never once trusted me enough to just ask. That tells me everything about where we are. She left, and I sat in that diner until dawn, finally understanding what I'd lost while counting my billions. I didn't go to work the next day. I went to the community center. Daniel was there, wary when he saw me. Mr. Crawford. Just Thomas. Can we talk? He looked like he wanted to refuse, but nodded. We sat on a bench outside. Emma told you about the investigators? Yeah, he stopped. Look, I don't know you, but I know Emma. And what you did. Following her, suspecting her, hiring people to track her when she was just trying to help someone? That's messed up. I know. Do you? Because Emma is the best person I've ever met. She stopped on a random Tuesday because I looked hungry. She brought me a sandwich. Then she came back the next week with a coat. Then the week after with a phone so I could call her if I needed help. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't judge me. Didn't treat me like a charity case or a project. She just saw me. Made me human again when I'd forgotten I was. She's good at that. Seeing people. And you stopped seeing her. That's what she told me. That you were so busy building your company that you forgot to build your marriage. That she felt invisible in her own home. She said that. Not in those words. But I could tell. The way she talked about you, or didn't talk about you. The way she'd check her phone hoping you'd called, but you never did. The way she'd light up when you texted and then deflate when it was just about schedule changes or business dinners. Daniel looked at me with eyes too old for 16. I've been invisible my whole life. On streets, in foster homes, in society. I know what it looks like. And Emma felt invisible to you. The one person who should have seen her most. I was blind. Yeah, you were. He stood. Emma told me you might come by. Said you'd want to talk, to understand. So here's what you need to understand. Emma saved my life. Literally. I was ready to give up before she showed up. And if you're going to be angry at her for that, if you're going to make her choose between helping people and staying married to you, then you don't deserve her. You're right. I don't. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know. But I want to start by understanding what she does here. Can you show me? Daniel studied me suspiciously. Why? Because I want to see the world through her eyes. I want to understand what matters to her. And I took a breath. I want to meet the person she saved. Properly. Not as the kid she was hiding from me, but as someone who matters to her. I'm not a prop for your redemption arc. No, you're a person she cares about, which means you matter. And I'm sorry I made her feel like you didn't. He nodded slowly. Okay, come on. I'll show you around. I spent that day at the community center. Met kids like Daniel. Dozens of them, all struggling, all surviving, all invisible to people like me who drove past in luxury cars and never looked down. I helped serve meals, listened to stories, sat with a 17-year-old girl who'd been trafficked, a 15-year-old boy who'd been kicked out for being gay, a 16-year-old who'd aged out of foster care pregnant and alone. They were all Daniel, all Emma's secret life, all the people she'd been helping while I suspected her of betrayal. You look shell-shocked, Daniel said at the end of the day. I am. I had no idea that this many kids were struggling, that homelessness affected youth. that people slip through cracks constantly. He shook his head. Most people don't. That's why we're invisible. It's easier to not see than to acknowledge and feel guilty about not helping. Emma doesn't look away. No, she stops. Every time. That's why she's special. That's why I love her. Do you? Because love isn't just a feeling. It's actions. It's seeing someone fully and choosing them every day. It's showing up, being present, making them feel valued. Daniel looked at me hard. Have you been doing that? No. Then start. I went home that night and did something radical. I closed my laptop. When Emma came home 3 days later, I was waiting. Not with investigators' reports or accusations. With vulnerability. I'm sorry, I said. For everything. For hiring investigators instead of trusting you. For becoming someone you had to lie to. For building an empire and forgetting to build a marriage. For being so blind to what mattered that you were saving lives while I suspected you of betrayal. She was quiet for a long time. I don't know if sorry is enough. I know. So I'm asking, what would it take for you to trust me again? To want to stay? Show me. Don't tell me you've changed. Show me. Over months. Over years. Prove that you can see beyond your company, your wealth, your success. Prove that you can see me. And people like Daniel. And all the invisible people you've been walking past your whole life. Ow! I don't know. That's for you to figure out. She took a breath. I'm not leaving yet. But I'm not staying because I'm hopeful. I'm staying because I'm curious. Curious if you can actually change, or if this is just temporary guilt that will fade once things settle. I want to help. At the community center. With Daniel. With all of it. Why? To prove yourself? To win me back? Both. And also because I saw them. The kids. And I can't unsee them now. Can't go back to walking past knowing what I know. That's a start. She sat beside me. But Thomas, understand this. I'm not asking you to become someone you're not. I'm asking you to remember who you were. The man who cried about injustice. Who wanted to make a difference. Who promised we'd stay grounded no matter how successful we became. That's who I married. And if he's completely gone, if the billionaire has entirely replaced a man with a heart, then we're done. He's not gone, just buried. And I want to excavate him. Then start digging. 1 year later, the Crawford Foundation opened on a Tuesday. Not a vanity project, not a tax shelter, an actual foundation dedicated to homeless youth, housing, education, job training, mental health support. Everything Daniel and kids like him needed. Daniel cut the ribbon, now a freshman at NYU studying social work. Emma stood beside him, radiant. And I stood beside her, no longer the suspicious husband, but the partner who'd finally learned to see. You did this, Daniel said to me afterward. Changed everything. No, Emma did this. I just finally paid attention. You did more than that. He gestured at the building. This is real. This is changing lives. It's what I should have been doing all along. Emma squeezed my hand. We'd spent a year rebuilding. Slowly. Carefully. I'd sold half my stake in my company, stepped back from daily operations. Started showing up at home, at the community center, at dinner tables and therapy sessions and conversations about what mattered. It wasn't perfect. Emma still didn't trust me completely. Still flinched when I worked late. Still checked to make sure I was actually present instead of just physically there. But we were trying. Building something real from the ruins of what we'd become. Thomas, Emma said as we drove home that night. Thank you. For what? For changing. For actually doing the work instead of just saying you would. For meeting me where I needed you instead of expecting me to come back to where we were. I almost lost you because I stopped seeing you. I won't make that mistake again. I know. I can finally believe that. We drove in comfortable silence, my hand in hers, building a marriage that was real instead of just expensive. And I realized something profound. I'd spent years building wealth. But Emma had spent that same time building meaning. And meaning, connection, compassion, the choice to see and help and love, was the only wealth that mattered. I tested my wife's character and found it better than mine. Now I was finally trying to deserve her. Thomas spent 3 months suspecting betrayal when Emma was showing compassion. He had to learn the difference between building wealth and building meaning. Have you ever been so focused on success that you missed what actually mattered? What woke you up? Share your story below. Sometimes we all need reminded what's real. This story is about the moment you realize success and meaning aren't the same thing. About discovering your partner is better than you thought, and you're worse. About choosing to change instead of defending who you've become. Thomas thought his wife was cheating. She was just being kind. And that difference revealed everything about what he'd lost while counting his billions. To everyone grinding for success, make sure you're not sacrificing meaning along the way. Money is easy to count, but connection, compassion, the moments that matter, those are priceless. Build both. Always build both.